Hello and welcome back to Russ's Movie Corner. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am sitting in front of my movie corner. I have my Jesus King of Kings t-shirt on, my King of Kings movie right next to me, and judging by the frame around me, we are back taking down another atheist. Again on the chopping block is Creaky Blinder, and we're back doing his video, Kent Hovind Says All of Science is Wrong. And yes, I do know that he has done a response to my first video in this series. I am currently formulating a plan to make that series happen. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and do everything because I've been kind of under the weather, and I've had some other things going on. So that being said, let's continue on with this series. When last we left off, Creaky Blinder, and it's been a couple weeks since I've actually done this because I was busy with other personal things in my life. So when we last left off, we were talking about the formation of the solar system from a supposed nebular cloud. Okay? And he's saying that how we as Christians tend to try to debunk things is we look at it from the standpoint of how do these things, like how we're coming at it or how we're attacking it is kind of in a similar vein to flat earthers, where we are trying to disprove something by showing people exactly what we need to prove it correct. In a sense, I would say no, because what we're doing is we're trying to poke holes in the theory itself by bringing up that we don't know that's how it worked. Just because there's an asteroid field out there between Earth and Mars, okay, doesn't mean that that asteroid field is a remnant of a gas cloud. Doesn't mean that we formed from stellar dust into a planet. Because we've never actually seen that process happen. That's just the theory of how it happened. And what we're doing is we're saying which is more plausible. This book, which basically states that that we were created around 6,000 years ago, very quickly over 6 days by a creator God, or billions of years ago where things happen and we as human beings are nothing more than dust and goop. Which is it? The problem comes in when you don't have any evidence to back up that that's what happened. Because what we're doing is we're just pointing telescopes at certain parts of the sky. We're looking at those and we're saying we think this is what's going on in that place, and so we think this is how we got here. We don't have a clue if that's actually how we got here or not. But he wants to believe people that have a piece of paper behind their name. When I have people with pieces of paper behind their name saying that, yes, we were backed up by the Bible, okay, that we were created by God and that, that's how we got here. So, the whole point of this isn't for me to necessarily say, I'm the biggest Kent Hovind superfan, which he's probably going to clip, or for me to say that this is what's going on. This is what we know, and this is what people are saying. Which one's right? Do you understand now? Okay? And when I get into the part where he's kind of, trying to debunk me, we're going to get into the fact that he's clipped a lot of what I say. Okay? Especially at the very beginning. I mean, you can just play the first 5 seconds of it and know that he basically clipped what I said. Okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have his video, my original video, and I'm going to be playing them back to back so that you understand the context of what I'm actually saying when I say it. Because anyone can clip anything to say whatever they want it to say. That's called quote mining / cherry picking. Okay? So when I said in that one video that I was not necessarily a scientist, I went on to say, just like you said, Creaky Blinder, that you're not a science teacher, and just like you said that Ken Hovind wasn't a science teacher, but the burden of proof is on you, Creaky Blinder, to prove that Ken Hovind never taught high school science anywhere in the country. And no one's ever been able to prove that. What they've done is they've written a bunch of websites, okay, basically saying that where he got his degrees are basically diploma mills and have no accreditation, and therefore he's not legit, and so therefore he never actually taught science, and he doesn't understand science, and he doesn't know anything about science. And that's why this becomes a generalization fallacy, is because that's the assumption that Creaky Blinder runs on, is that Ken Hovind doesn't know anything about science. And my point is that just because I'm not a scientist doesn't mean that I've actually not ever spent time in the field or not ever studied anything. Because now you're starting to take stock in someone having a degree behind your name. Does Creaky have a degree behind his name? No. At least not to my knowledge. Okay? So, is that something? So if he doesn't, then what qualifies him to talk about these topics? Do you see what I'm getting at here? And this is the problem that we have when we get into this whole notion of you didn't get the same accreditation as so-and-so, so you suck and they're right, you're wrong, I win. And the problem with that is that now anybody who doesn't go to a 2-year or 4-year university and get a degree that is supposedly accredited by the, the powers that be in that accreditation system, then nobody has a chance to say anything on it. So that means that the 2-year degree that I got through my technical college doesn't mean anything to anyone else, even though I studied chemistry, physics, calculus, math in general. Everybody goes, nope, that doesn't matter anymore. You're not qualified because you don't have a piece of paper behind your name. Pieces of paper don't mean shit. Okay? Let me just say that right now. Pieces of paper don't mean shit. It just means you spent more time studying something. That's all. Doesn't make you an expert. Doesn't make you a know-it-all in that sense. It just means you spent a little bit more time than most everybody studying something. And that's all it does. Doesn't make you any smarter than anyone else on the planet. Okay? So, that's where we're at. Let's continue on with Creaky's video.
Like Phuket Word did in the last video. But I suppose that if we let him waffle on for long enough, then he's bound to say something really stupid, isn't he? Too late.
The Big Bang lie is so stupid and so unscientific, you have to wonder how anyone with one functioning brain cell could be duped into believing it.
I don't know, Ken. Maybe because it's supported by an astonishing amount of evidence.
Like what? Like what? Come on, Creaky. Like what? You haven't provided yet in this whole entire thing, outside of quote mining a couple of places off of Google, you haven't provided one iota of tangible scientific evidence that this is what happened to the Earth, to the universe. Okay? You're just quoting what other people have written for textbooks and papers and different things like that. They're opinions of people who have looked through telescopes and they think that's what happened. Because they don't want to believe in the Bible, most of the time. Okay? So, what's your evidence again? That's right, you don't have any.
And despite the fact that the Big Bang only occurred at one instant in time, a very long time ago, that leftover glow known as the cosmic microwave background continues to persist.
No. The cosmic microwave background radiation was thought to be the glow from the Big Bang. But they don't know that for sure. Because the way they found that, again, was we have the VLA, the Very Large Array, down in New Mexico. There's a bunch of radio telescopes that they link together, and they try to point in at stars, okay, because every star kind of gives off its own unique signature and stuff like that. So basically, they looked at all these different things, they looked at all these different stars, but everywhere they pointed the radio telescopes, and it didn't matter who was doing it, didn't matter if it happened down in Arecibo, didn't matter if it was down in New Mexico, didn't matter if it was, wherever else they have all these different radio telescopes, wherever they pointed it, they just detected a white noise in the background. And so they identified it as cosmic microwave background radiation, or the CMBR, okay? And they basically, compared the signal that they got with other signals here on Earth, okay? Radiometric signals, like isotope signals, okay? And what they came up with was that it was very similar to a certain type of radiation here on Earth. And they said, well, we think, mathematically, that this radiation has this half-life, so if that radiation out there is very similar to this radiation here on Earth, then we will take that and we'll just apply that formula to that microwave background radiation, and we can get an age of the Earth. Because we can kind of detect about how far away it is. And so if we do that, we plug it into a formula, and then bam, we got 13.8 billion years. Or something like that. It's whatever it is right now. It's a 13 point something billion years. Okay? And that's what they say is the age of the Earth. Because that's when they believe that this background radiation started. Okay? They don't have a clue if that's what happened because, A, they're not measuring the actual background radiation itself. They compared it to things here on Earth. Similar to, say, carbon dating, where they make massive assumptions about things. B, they plugged it into a bunch of formulas to try to get mathematics of how much that was. Okay? Based on a mathematical formula of a probability event that they don't know actually happens because the half-lives are so long. We don't know if that's what the half-life of things are, okay? We assume that's what it is because that's how much we measure on Geiger counters, and when we measure it on Geiger counters, we say, okay, it loses this many neutrons over this much time, and so it decays from this element to this element to this element to this element, and so if it keeps on going down, eventually it will turn into a stable element. We think. We've never actually observed that happening, but that's what we assume happens. Okay? Because it hasn't been around long enough for us to be able to test it. And C, the CMBR is way out there. We don't know what the CMBR is. Okay? We just measured it with radio telescopes. That's it. And we compared it with other radiometric signatures that we have here on Earth. And we took two that were similar and we thought, okay, that's what this is. That's why it's called the cosmic microwave background radiation, is because it's similar to microwaves. That's why I said similar to, because we don't actually know, because we're not out there measuring it. Has anyone gotten in a spaceship and traveled out to the far reaches of the edges of the universe to measure the CMBR? No? Oh. Well, from what you said, I thought you said that they measured it. They didn't measure it. They're assuming it's the afterglow. We don't know what it is. We just know that no matter where we point the telescope, we get this white noise. If it's not pointing specifically at a certain star in the sky. If we point it in between the stars, we get this kind of white staticky noise. That's it. And they noticed that it was everywhere, no matter where we were, in the constellations, in the seasons, in the months, in the days, in the hours, in the minutes. It didn't matter where we were in our orbit of the sun. Or if we were in the northern or southern hemisphere, no matter where we pointed a radio telescope away from stars, we just happened to notice that there was this white noise in the background. And that's it. We don't know what that white noise is. We just know that it's white noise. So their assumption is that the CMBR is the after effects of the Big Bang. But again, when they've tried to replicate instances of the Big Bang at places like CERN and stuff like that, they've never measured that microwave background radiation the same way that it is out in the cosmos. So again, we don't know, Creaky. Sorry.
Can you show us any evidence that God did it? Is there anything he left behind?
Yes. As a matter of fact, there's plenty left behind. Because there's archaeological evidence, there's anthropological evidence, there's historical evidence. Okay? There's textual evidence, as in we actually have manuscripts of the Bible. Okay? Like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay? We also know that our world is way too ordered for this entropic universe to have happened. We also have the fundamental laws of physics, specifically the laws of thermodynamics, specifically laws 1 and 2, which state that matter can neither be created nor destroyed, it can only be transformed, that's within our physical universe, and B, number 2, okay, that everything tends towards disorder. Which means if this universe were really billions of years old, there would be a lot more dead star supernova remnants out there. We don't see that. We don't see a whole lot of supernova remnants. And we've never seen a star form. If the universe were truly billions of years old, there would have to be the formation of brand new stars. But we don't see that. We only see stars dying. We don't see stars being born. We assume they're being born in nebula, but we've never actually seen one actually physically form. What you've seen is bright dots through gravitational lensing through the dust. But you don't know if that star is actually in the nebula or beyond the nebula. You see what I'm saying? And because we don't know that, we have issues with that. That's what we're talking about here when Christians talk about poking holes in the theory. Is we're asking you, how do you know that that bright dot is in the nebula and not beyond it? Because for years, and I'm talking, this was back before Copernicus and Galileo did their stuff, okay? People used to think that the stars were just at a static spot somewhere out there, okay? And it wasn't until Galileo and Copernicus started looking at the movement of the stars, the movement of the planets, the movement of different things, that they started realizing that the center was the sun of the sun was the center of the solar system, and that we were orbiting around the sun. Okay, and once they found that out, that threw a whole monkey wrench into things, because now everything everybody believed at that point was like, oh, wait a minute. And then as people started studying the stars over the years, they started noticing that the stars were at different distances, and that their inherent luminosity was either due to A, size, or B, distance. Because the closer something is, the brighter in magnitude it is. Conversely, the larger something is, the more luminosity it has. Okay? And so it may give off more light because it's a lot larger. It could be further away, but it could be giving off more light because it's a lot bigger. And so we could see it because of that. Okay? But that's the point. We started noticing that these constellations that we see are actually stars, some of which are very far away than the other stars that make up the constellation. So how do we know that when we're viewing a nebula, that a bright spot inside that nebula, that gas cloud, is actually that star forming, or is it something that's further on and the dust is cleared to bring up the intensity of the luminosity of that star? And I've never, ever, ever once heard a person say definitively that yes, that is in this supposed stellar nursery, or no, it's not. It's beyond it. And that's all we bring up when we bring up that kind of stuff, is we're just saying, is that where it is, or is it different? And how does that relate to that being a stellar nursery, or just being a random cloud of dust in the middle of somewhere? You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying Creaky's right or wrong. I'm not saying Ken Hovind is right or wrong. I'm saying this is what we're trying to do as Christians, is trying to bring to attention holes in the theory of the Big Bang, to say, we don't know. We don't know about the Big Bang. We don't know about the creation in the Genesis account. We're both staking it on faith. Creaky has just as much faith as Ken Hovind and I do that this is what happened. Because if he's wrong, his consequences are an eternity in hell. If we're wrong, what are our consequences? What, our soul goes to an empty place? Is that what most people believe? I don't know. Does our soul return to Atman? Does our soul, just return to the earth? Like, what? But that's why I ask this question of people like Creaky Blinder. You'd better be 110%, 110,000% sure of what happens to your soul when you die. Because if you're not, the consequences, unfortunately, are eternal.
Like a hammer or a screwdriver or something that supports that he did it all? No? Just us again.
Questions. Where did space come from?
So, let me touch on that really quick. What did God leave behind as proof that he created the universe? Well, again, we have his word. Okay? We have the word of God. Okay? That has been... People have tried to debunk it for years. Okay? Number 2, DNA. Okay? DNA. Think about it. It is hugely complex. It is a gigantic book inside each one of your cells that defines who you are. That's not something that you can just dismiss lightly out of hand as being some random chance thing, because it's not. Okay? Because DNA is unbelievably complex. Number 3, the heavens declare the glory of God. Okay? Multiple times in here it says the heavens declare the glory of God. Every time you look up at the stars, you're looking at God's handiwork. Okay? Whether you want to believe that or not is up to you, but that's a remnant of God declaring, "Here I am." Okay? But this next part about what Kent Hovind is posting here is very, very true. Where did space come from? We have a lot of empty space out there that's not filled with anything that we know of. We assume it's filled with dark matter because we don't have any way of explaining these voids. Okay? We assume dark matter exists. We don't know that it does. Okay? We don't know that it does. Okay? We assume it does. Because, again, they've run calculations and they think there's something out there, but they don't know if it does exist or not. Okay?
From? Where did time come from? Where did all this matter come from? Where did the energy come from to move all these particles?
So a universe popping into existence out of nothing, as Kent likes to put it, was such a difficult to understand.
No, Creaky, you don't get to do that. That's not Kent saying that. That's Alan Guth saying that. Get it right. Your own side is saying that the universe popped into existence from nothing. That's on Alan Guth, not on Kent Hovind. Don't get it twisted, Creaky.
And concept that even scientists had to be dragged kicking and screaming to the idea. But the evidence is compelling. The basic idea that the universe began hot and dense I thought that wasn't even funny. And has been expanding and cooling ever since is incontrovertible.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You see, what we know and what we can prove, okay, are two different things. Because what we know in terms of the Big Bang was made up by a Belgian guy named Georges Lemaitre, okay? He came up with this idea of maybe at some point long ago and far away there was, everything was packed into a dense region. A hot, dense region. That's it. And some people took that and ran with it. Other people were like, that is the dumbest thing we've ever heard. Okay? Which is why he's saying that scientists had to be, dragged kicking and screaming to it. But we don't have incontrovertible proof of it. Because again, what can we prove about the Big Bang? Can we prove that the CMBR is actually what we think it is? Can we prove that beyond the shadow of a doubt? Okay, because let's look at...
Sorry, Kent, big word there.
Incontrovertible. Okay, let's look at this definition of incontrovertible here. Okay? It says not able to be denied or disputed. Can we dispute the Big Bang Theory? Yes. Because do we have incontrovertible proof or undisputable, undeniable proof that the CMBR is what Creaky just said it was? That it's the afterglow of the Big Bang. Do we know that beyond the shadow of a doubt? No. Because again, it's based on the fact that wherever we pointed our telescopes, we saw this white noise. We heard this white noise. And so they thought, what is this stuff? And so they started applying what they knew on Earth to something that is way out there in space that no one's ever actually been able to test. So do we know that that's what that is? No. Okay? Is that incontrovertible? Nope. Do we know that the Big Bang actually happened? Nope. We don't have any proof that there was a Big Bang. Okay? None at all. Because we haven't been able to recreate anything like that in a lab. We haven't been able to do anything like it anywhere else. So we don't have any incontrovertible proof that there was ever a Big Bang. That's why it's called a theory. Okay? Again, don't let them twist words. Theory means it's just a theory that is until a better explanation comes along, it's the only explanation they have of what things are going. Or what things are doing. Okay? That's the point. Is it incontrovertible? No. You see where I'm going with this? Do we know that that's how the sun, the moon, and the stars formed? No. They assume that that's how it happened. Okay? Because we have no proof that that's how stars form. We have no proof that that's how planets form. We have no proof that that's how the moon formed. We have no proof that that's how anything in the solar system formed. They assume that's how it formed. Because again, they ran mathematical calculations and simulations based on imagination, not on actual science. Could it be sound? Maybe. But practicality, things that happen in the lab, are not things that happen in books. Because you can describe things mathematically, but does that actually happen in the real world? You can't say that it does. And I happen to know that because I did 2 years of a technical college where we studied things in the books and then went out and did them and applied them in the lab. Because we had to understand that what you do in the book is not necessarily what always happens in the lab. Because things break down, things happen. You have seals that are loose, you have things that happen, things get loose. Things wear down because of friction. You have a lot of different things that happen. And so you have to understand that not everything that you learn in the book is how it works in actual real life. And so you can crunch all the numbers that you want to. But is that what actually happens out in the real world? They don't know. And that is not incontrovertible proof. But what people like Creaky Blinder are trying to do is redefine the word theory to mean that it's incontrovertible proof that that's what happened. So they've redefined theory in science to mean that it's the only explanation of whatever happened because we have a bunch of peer-reviewed papers that say that's the way it happened. So there. That's not incontrovertible proof because most of those papers have lied. Do you take a lie as incontrovertible proof that it's the truth? If you do, you're a fool. You should have a healthy amount of skepticism. And I'm not saying that, just because that isn't true means that the Bible's 100% true. I'm still saying the Bible's 95% true. The other 5% are the things that we have yet to prove. And we may never get the proof. We may never be able to prove that this is exactly what happened 6,000 years ago, that the earth was created in 6 days. We may never be able to have that proof in our hands. Because again, we're dealing with a being that is outside of our time, space, and matter, outside of our four-dimensional universe. Okay? we can't know what that being does, thinks, everything outside of what he chooses to reveal to us. And if that being exists, ask yourself this question, if that being exists, would he have had to create biology, geology, chemistry, physics, astrophysics, gravity, all the fundamental laws of our universe to create the universe? Yes. And that includes Newton's 3 laws. Remember, Newton didn't discover gravity. He just put a name to something that already existed since the beginning of time. It's not like everybody was floating around and then all of a sudden, like Newton was floating by an apple tree and an apple fell down to the earth and then he went, oh, gravity! And then everybody fell to the earth. It's not how it works. Gravity's always been here. It's always been this way. He just put a name to it. And he discovered the laws of thermodynamics. He didn't create the laws of thermodynamics. He just put a name to them. That's the point, folks. Okay? This is the problem that we have when people like this try to conflate science as the end-all, be-all, everything. They use that word. It's incontrovertible. You can't disprove it. See? That's basically what he's saying. Yeah, you can't dispute it. See? Ha ha ha. Yeah, we can. Because have you, Creaky Blinder, personally gone out and observed the CMBR? No? Oh. Well, then that's not incontrovertible proof that the CMBR is the afterglow of the Big Bang. You're taking it on faith that that's what other people have said about the CMBR and that that's what it actually is. But do you know that it is 100%? You know. Deep down in the very fiber of your being, you know that that's what it is. No? Oh, okay. Well, then it's not incontrovertible. Gravity is an incontrovertible fact. It is a scientific law. Okay? Gravity exists. If I pick up this little stress ball and I drop it, well, look at that. Gravity. I can toss it. What does it do? It comes back to my hand. Okay? Because I'm putting energy into the system, but eventually gravity wins and it pulls it back down towards my hand. And if I don't, it pulls it towards the center of the earth. Right? That's what gravity is. Gravity is a law. But the CMBR, you don't know that that's the, quote, afterglow of the Big Bang. That's what we're saying. That is not an incontrovertible fact, Creaky. And until you get that through your head, no one can help you. Because you're indoctrinated. You're exactly what you think we are. And it's hilarious to watch.
Means something has so much support and evidence, it is not able to be denied or disputed.
No. Well, so yes. Okay. In that respect, yes. Okay. Gravity, right? We know it exists because things are stuck to the earth. Right? We know that. That is an incontrovertible fact. Again, yes. But just because someone says A is similar to B, so therefore A is B, that is not an incontrovertible fact. Or we should say it this way. A is similar to B, B is similar to C, so therefore A is C. That's not an incontrovertible fact. And that's basically what they're saying with the CMBR. and stellar nurseries and all this other stuff. That's what they're saying. They don't know that it did. They don't have incontrovertible proof that it is. What they're doing is they're saying it. See, this paper, this peer-reviewed paper that I sent around to all my friends and they just patted me on the back and said, "Great job, buddy," says this. So, is that real? Have you studied that? Do you know that that's what that is? No? Okay, then it's not an incontrovertible fact. Do you know that the bones in said layer are that many billions of years old, or millions of years old, or hundreds of millions of years old? No? Oh, how do you know that then? Oh, because someone said so? What if they were wrong? Have you ever asked yourself that question? What if they don't know the ages of the bones in the dirt and the layers? Because they don't have the proof of that. It's not incontrovertible at that point. That's the point we're bringing up. We're not saying all of science is wrong. There is plenty of really good science out there that people can study. It's the stuff like this that they're saying is, quote, incontrovertible, unquote, that gets people like me and Kent and Ken Ham and Ray Comfort and all of us that do these apologetics videos. It's what gets us kind of fired up, is because we're going, you don't know. That's the point. You're trying to say that it is, but you don't know for certain that's what it is. And I'm sorry, Creaky, you can't take that as anything other than faith. That what those people say is what is actually true. Because I have a time-tested, scientifically backed document that says otherwise. And you're welcome to try to prove it wrong. Go for it. I dare you. And just saying it's fake is not an argument. Just saying there's no evidence for it is not an argument. Because there's thousands of pages of archaeological, historical, and anthropological evidence that back up the stories of the Bible. 95 to 97% of the stories in the Bible. And it's the other 3 to 5% that we have not been able to prove, beyond the shadow of a doubt, as incontrovertible. But we can say that this document, okay, is incontrovertible proof that there is a God. Because people have tried and failed to debunk it. Let's go a little bit more.
Because unlike young Earth creationists, our explanation of how the universe began doesn't need to be translated or interpreted in any way. That's just how it went. And the fact that you don't believe it makes no difference whatsoever.
No, Creaky. That's not true. Okay? Just because we need to translate something, okay? I would ask this then. Do you speak German? Okay. If you don't, then how can you say that German scientists back up what American scientists say? Are you taking American scientists' words on it? Or are you learning German to be able to translate the German papers over to English to make sure that that's what they say? Do you speak Chinese? Do you know that the Chinese scientists are saying what the German scientists and the American scientists are saying? No? Oh, I thought you did. Do you speak Japanese? Do you speak Korean? Do you speak any other language on earth other than English? Because if you don't, then you're taking it on faith, here again, you're taking it on faith that what those people are telling you is true. Because otherwise, someone has to take a paper from like a German scientist and translate it into English to put it into an English journal. Now, math is a universal language because anyone on Earth can use numbers and things to do things, which is why we've standardized math the way that we have. But that doesn't necessarily explain it all. Because if somebody is in Germany, they're not writing papers in English. They're writing papers in German. If someone's in China, they're not writing papers in English, they're writing papers in Chinese. Now, could they speak English? Yes. Could they translate their paper from Chinese into English? Yes. But they still have to do that. Because they don't think in English like we do. They think in Chinese, or German, or French, or whatever language that they speak. So that in and of itself is a fallacy. That you don't have to have things translated to believe in it. Yeah, you do. I guarantee that you do. Because not everybody in the world speaks English. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. That is the single most arrogant thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, for a long time, yes, scientists were told in universities around the world to speak in English so that they could communicate with the most powerful nation on Earth, which at the time was the USA. Okay? But that's not the case anymore. Because so many countries are doing their own thing. They have their own scientific their own scientific stuff, and we send people over there all the time. They don't necessarily all speak English. Okay? We'd like to think they do. Do they? Probably. But that's not a guarantee. And I can guarantee you that the notes that they write down and the stuff that they write down is not in English. They're writing it down in their own native language. Okay? Here's a good thing. Okay? I'm gonna use this as an illustration purpose. Okay? One of my favorite Bond films of all time, Skyfall. Okay? Javier Bardem was the villain. Okay? Javier Bardem is Spanish, comes from the country of Spain. Wonderful actor, okay? He doesn't speak English. He speaks English, but he doesn't think in English. He thinks in Spanish. So when he got this role, okay, he took the script to a university and had it professionally translated from English into Spanish. Then he sat down and he studied the script because he wanted to get inside the head of the villain. Before he ever learned a line in English, he studied the entire script in Spanish, because that's his native language. And when I heard that, I went, holy shit, this guy is amazing. And this villain is going to be awesome because he doesn't speak English, and he wants to understand the mindset of the villain. And he did this on No Country for Old Men, and he's done this on almost every single role that he takes. Like, for instance, when he did Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. He went and he had the script translated into Spanish, but he also bought the Spanish translation of the Book of Dune. And so he read through the Book of Dune to understand Stilgar's character, and then read through the script in Spanish to understand where Denis Villeneuve had pulled moments from the book and had kind of like interpreted certain moments into the script so that he could understand where was Stilgar at this point. And holy shit, was his character fucking awesome because of that. So no, Creaky. You still have to have translators. You still have to have things translated from other countries. Okay? That is a fallacious notion known as arrogance. Because for so long, us in the English-speaking world have been on top of everything that we think everybody should just kowtow to us. And that's not how it works. Okay? And for many years, people got sick and tired of us. Especially back in the like late 70s through the 90s, countries started getting sick and tired of Americans coming over and going, "Well, I can't believe you don't speak English." In their own fucking countries. That's why we over here think that people like the French are so fucking arrogant. What? Is it too much to ask that they speak their own language in their own country? Should it be too much to ask for people to speak their own language in their own country? And if they come to that country, they should learn that fucking language? Is that too much to ask? I guess it is now. Considering what's happening on our southern border here in the U.S. Because it used to be like we'd have refugees coming from, former Soviet bloc countries, and we'd have people coming from the former Yugoslavia. We'd have people come over here from other places. What did they do? They learned English. Okay? They assimilated into this culture. They learned English. They learned how to do things. Did they bring parts of their own culture with them? Yes, we are a total melting pot. But we didn't kowtow to those people. Okay? They spoke their own languages in their homes. But when they went out to do business with other people, they learned how to speak English. Okay? In fact, I knew people, my mom and some other people, some friends, parents that I knew, used to work with these people, these Serbians, these like Croatians, these former Russian, Soviet bloc, Russia place, like Moldova and Belarus and Ukraine, those kind of places. When these people came over to escape those places, they learned English. Okay? And they assimilated into our culture. And we used to have churches that would give lessons to people. And we would teach them how to speak English. So that when they went out, they weren't like, I don't understand. And then start speaking in their own native tongue, and the person's going, I don't understand you. No. We taught them English so that they could communicate with other English-speaking people. And up until the mid-90s, that was what we demanded of people. And then all of a sudden, we started kowtowing to all these people. We started speaking their language, and we started telling them, oh, you can come here and not learn our language, it's fine. No! They need to assimilate. They need to learn. And the people that did come here and assimilate now don't like those that didn't come here to assimilate. Because they didn't. Okay? But the notion that you, okay, don't have to translate something from some scientist is bullshit. Creaky. That is elitist arrogance thinking. And it's wrong. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you think of this series so far. We'll pick back up here in another video, and like I said, I'm going to get to that Creaky Blinder video. I'm just in the process of kind of going through it. I'm taking some notes, I'm doing some things, because I'm going to actually, like, properly do an actual thing. So I'm gonna get my video, I'm going to have his video, I'm going to have my video, like I said in the beginning. I'm going to go back and forth between the two to make sure that you're getting the full context of what I said, not just his context of what he thinks I said. Okay? Because again, anybody can cut and chop videos up, which is why I do these type of videos that are so long. Because I like to start with, I like to be able to debunk every single one of those points, okay, in a way that makes it this way, okay? And as we say, we will see you on the next one.